So in the previous lesson, we were solving using elimination, and we already had a set of opposites created. So the first step was one we didn't need to do. We just moved right on to the rest of the process. This time, we're going to focus on getting that first step done to make those opposites happen. So let's take a look here at some examples. This is the biggest trick to this, is trying to find a way to multiply to make your life easy. Now, you're allowed to multiply the top equation. You're allowed to multiply the bottom equation. You're allowed to multiply them both. But easier is typically if you can find just one equation that requires multiplying. That way you don't have to do as much work. So here's what I like to ask myself. Let's take a look at these two equations. First check, is there already a set of opposites? No, there's not. These are not opposites. Those are not opposites. Okay, so we do need to multiply. How do we do this? I just start with the x's, and I always start with the smaller number. Is there an easy way to multiply a 5 and turn it into a 7? Not if I want to use whole numbers, and whole numbers are typically easier to use. So let's move over here to the next one, to the y's. Again, focus on the smaller number. Is there an easy way to multiply a 7 into a 14? Yes, there is. I can just double it, multiply by 2. Now, more specifically, we're actually going to multiply by -2. And the reason is, I want the coefficient in front of this bottom y to be the opposite of this one. I want it to be a positive 14. So to make that happen, I've got to take this negative times another negative. The way this multiplication works, whatever you do on the left side of the equation, you need to do on the right side of the equation. And then, let's see how things turn out. That's not what I wanted. I just wanted to move things over. Here we go. So, if we take the top equation and leave it alone, we didn't do anything to it, so it stays the same. But now on the bottom equation, -2 distributes through these parentheses. So -2 times -7x would be positive 14x's. -2 times -7y is plus 14y's. And over here, 0 times -2, that just stays 0. And look at that. Now we have an equation system with a pair of opposites, so we can use our elimination method. So we are going to finish this up. Before we do, quick recap. I looked for an easy way to multiply one equation to create that pair of opposites, and in this case, I was able to find one. Okay, let's add these together. -5x's plus 14x's, that's 9x's. My y's eliminate because they're opposites. That was the whole point. -9 plus 0 is -9. Do a division by 9. So now we're finishing out this elimination process. X is -1. Now, just because I'm out of space over here, I'm going to come down here and continue my work to finish out. So next up, I'm going to put this -1 in for my x in one of the equations. I'll just choose the top equation. So my -1 goes in where the x is. -5 times x minus 14 times y equals -9. Simplify this. That's just regular 5. And from here, I want to get y by itself. So a little bit of that. Then lastly, a division. Now, I do want you to make sure you're doing all the practice problems. I know there's a lot of them. But the more you do this, the better you get, the faster you get, the more confident you're going to end up feeling. And that is our goal here after all. Okay. Final step, do a quick check. If I put -1 in for the x and 1 in for the y's, this would be 5 minus 14. So that works. And down here, it would be 7 minus 7 down to 0. That works as well. Okay, let's do the same thing we just did. We're looking for the simplest way to multiply to make these equations eliminate. So is there a whole number I can multiply 3 by to make it 8? No. Is there a whole number I could multiply 4 by to make it 10? No. Okay, that just means we're going to need to multiply both equations. Now, what's simplest? It's sometimes very hard to tell. So here's my advice. If you're not sure, if there's not an obvious way, then let's just eliminate the x's. I look at 8 and 3, and here's a trick you can use. Just take, if I've got an 8 here and a 3 here, I'm going to multiply the top equation by 3. And I'm going to multiply the bottom equation, not by 8, but by -8 to create this pair of opposites. So notice, I'm just multiplying by the coefficient from the other equation. Let's see how this works out then. That's going to give me, so 3 times 8, that's 24x's on the top, 3 times -4 minus 12y's, and then -24 times 3 is -72. On the bottom, -8 times 3x is -24x. -8 times -10y would be plus 80y's. And then -9 times -8 is positive 72. And just like that, I've created my pair of opposites. So again, the way I did that, I just multiplied by this number down here and this number up here, making sure that I adjusted my signs to get a pair of opposites going on. Okay, let's finish this out. X's eliminate. -12 plus 80 is 68. -72 plus 72 is 0. Divide by the 68. So the y ends up being 0. Okay, that happens sometimes. So I'm now going to put 0 in for a y in one of these equations so we can figure out what the x should be. I'm going to choose to use the top equation. And notice I'm using the original equations we started with. I do that just in case I made a mistake somewhere. I don't want to use my mistake. I want to use the way things started. 4 times 0 is just 0, and subtracting 0 doesn't change anything. So do a division by 8. We end up with an x of -3. So I think my solution is -3, 0. Let's give it a check. That would be -24 minus 0 is -24. That works. And -9 minus 0 is -9. That also works.